G'day expats and welcome to another episode of Expat Chat, episode 131. We are back. It's 2025. Trump is president. Look out. I am joined as always with my co-host, friend, mate, colleague, business mentor, all of the above, Brett Evans, who is the managing director for the Europe, Middle East and Africa's region, who remarkably has a jumper on and he's in Dubai. So Brett, how are you?
Mate, I'm well, thanks. I'm well. I'm back for season number 7. So, been doing it a while now. It hasn't been for 5 minutes. It's something we're very proud of, and it's been a busy start to the year, hence the delay in getting this episode out. You know, I always say you finish the year the way you start it, so we always like to sort of come out of the gate strong when it comes to work for clients, operations, plans that we've got in place or building for Atlas over the years. And to me, it's very much about setting ourselves up for the next 11 months, considering that next week is February. I just can't believe that. I'm still getting used to writing 2025. I've written 2024 about 3 or 4 times this week.
I know. I'm the same, especially when it comes to certifying things. I can't wrap my head around it, to be honest. 2024, it's gone, and there was a lot that went on, and 2025 is shaping up to be a lot bigger. So I can't wait to see what this year brings for clients, for us, for the I suppose the global economy, inflation, interest rates, Trump in power, America first. There's a lot going on.
Mate, there is, and I think let's just get the admin out of the way, with a nice little compliance disclaimer. All the information we're going to talk about today should be treated as general and should be treated as informational or educational purposes only. Please do not consider this as personal advice. If you need any personal advice, speak to a specialist like Atlas.
Absolutely, mate. And I mean, today we wanted to just touch base with our listeners, letting everyone know that we're back on deck, and I guess what the year holds for us.
And it's been, as I said, it's been a busy start. We've already kicked off one webinar the other week with yourself, myself, Ben and Jeremy talking about 2024, the year that was, and what we're looking forward to 2025. Obviously, Trump's now in power. He's done about 10,000 executive orders that everyone's trying to get their heads around. And operationally, we're off to a strong start too with a number of big plans for the year. We've just signed a deal with Holo Mortgage in the UAE. Everyone's very familiar with what a mortgage broker does back in Australia, but in the UAE, mortgage brokers aren't really a thing, even though these guys have been around for 20-odd years. So we're now very proud to be able to assist our clients buy properties or seek mortgages in the UAE. They've got 500 mortgage products that they go through. So the same sort of process that Australians expect back in Australia, we now have to be able to offer in Dubai. So really excited by that. But then other things as well too. We've got big plans for the year. I'll be in Switzerland next month, working with Auschan Switzerland up there, doing a relocation seminar, how to settle into Switzerland and the key considerations behind that. We've got some other announcements, next month, which I won't allude to yet, relating to that region. I'm not going to go too much into detail. Obviously, Jeremy will be having a property webinar coming up as well too.
That's right.
That's in February. So February's a busy month for us. And then, through the rest of the year, we've got some big plans too with more seminars like what we did back last year in the Middle East. But, you can run through sort of the gamut of what that looks like.
Yeah, that's right. So we're looking forward to going to a few countries throughout Southeast Asia, doing the same kind of seminars. We'll be heading abroad over to, I'd say, the US or the Americas as well. So we're just trying to obviously connect with more and more Australians, all those Australian communities. We're still seeing a very large demand for Australian expat financial advice. There's a lot out there. And I think what's more concerning more recently is with Trump now in power and these executive orders he's been signing, I've even had a couple of clients reaching out to me from the US saying, is he going to punitively tax foreign nationals? So there's a lot that's coming up, but there's a lot that's coming up from us as well in terms of in-person seminars. So keep an eye on the socials, keep an eye on our monthly newsletter, including our Facebook group as well, because we can't wait to get over there, do these masterclasses, just so you feel more empowered to manage your finances, especially when you're navigating cross-border taxes, sending money home, and where you might retire as well.
Mate, you're spot on. I mean, the webinars are great. You can sit at home in your pajamas eating your cornflakes and, getting some information that helps you make informed decisions. But the fun bit from our point of view is actually meeting the people. We sit here, you and I are chatting to, I think, I looked at the numbers at the end of last year, the podcast goes to over 100 countries, but we don't know them. Whereas the seminars are great. We actually get to meet the people behind the names, people who submit the questions, and we can probably provide more contextual advice, which is good. So we've been doing the Middle East one for a while now, and it's always well received. And look forward to taking that out to further fields, and just once again helping expats make smart choices.
Absolutely. And as we look into another year, 2025, we continue to grow the team as well. I know Atlas Wealth Group is growing. We're hiring, obviously, tax professionals. We're hiring more financial advisors. We're hiring more on the mortgage team as well. So it'd be interesting to see what all the new faces look like when we come to the end of 2025.
Yeah, so what we're doing with that is because obviously we don't make sneakers or T-shirts. We're a service business, and people are our product. Atlas team, that is the product. That's why people engage us. They're not engaging us for the numbers; they're engaging us for the person behind the numbers. And if you keep an eye on our socials, Joelle, our marketing communications manager, is now starting to run employee profiles on the social pages just to introduce you to the team. Because people don't often realize when you talk to myself or yourself or Adam or Martin or Jeremy or Ben, there's a whole team behind us that are actually involved in that process.
That's right.
That's why people engage us. We provide a very compliant, structured, and rigorous advice process, and it takes more than one person to deliver that service.
Absolutely. And I think it's also just it gives everyone a taste of Atlas as well, what we're all about, all from different walks of life. I think it's really interesting. I know one of our associates in the Australian office, Gold Coast office, Brandon, he's Canadian, and I know some clients get a kick out of it when he's answering the phone call and they realise he's a voice and go, oh, hang on, he's actually an expat himself, but he's here working in Australia.
Yeah, same thing with Adam. Adam was born in Hong Kong, Kiwi parents. We don't talk about that, by the way. But spent his formative years in Hong Kong through high school, primary school and high school, then moved to Australia, lived in Sydney, studied in Sydney, worked in Sydney. So he's sort of quasi, Aussie, unless the All Blacks are playing the Wallabies. In that case, he's very much an All Black, but it's what the world has become. I was talking to a client the other day and explaining probably, I'd say 20 to 30% of our client base who are married. It's a mixed nationality marriage. We're meeting people with such, it's funny how they start the conversation off saying, oh, my situation is pretty complicated. And then they explain it to us like, no, actually sounds pretty familiar to us because that's the way that, our bread and butter is those sort of complicated matters, and when you meet people who have tri and quad citizenships and, it's something that, I don't know, I find it fascinating. It's the modern world these days. And I think it's 1/3 of Australian citizens have more than 2 passports. So it gives you an idea of how multicultural Australia's become, and that's obviously exploded even greater on the expat side because you might have a single Australian moves overseas, finds a partner of a different nationality. There we have the formation of the United Nations, and off we go from there.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, right now, closer to home, I'm investigating getting Italian citizenship because of my wife. So it's, I think we're just collecting passports here, aren't we?
It is. Look, and it's actually a full-time business in regions like the Middle East because if you're from the Middle East, you may not have a lot of peace of mind or certainty with respect to your passports, and the citizenship ownership or buying process is a very popular scheme here to get European passports and things like Montenegro and all these other exotic sort of places where you can buy a property and get citizenship. It's a very big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what are some of your predictions made for the different key themes? I think we're still going to see a lot of Australians heading over. I know we saw a lot of Australians heading over to, I think the US was a big one last year. I reckon with Trump in power and, if he doesn't sort of legislate any of these punitive tariffs and taxes on foreign nationals, I think we'll continue to see a lot of not only small businesses, but big businesses branching into the US further. And same with Australian expats. I know you saw a lot of people heading over to Qatar and Saudi and obviously the UAE, the massive business hub over there. But You reckon we're still going to continue to see these key themes playing out for another year?
Look, I think so. I think, it's a combination of a number of functions, but economic would be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Years gone by, Australians have always been expats. Ever since Australia was invented, we've always travelled the world. It's in our DNA, but it's only a subset of the population, whereas now we have what I like to call the economic refugees who are coming out of Australia because either businesses aren't doing well, so they're looking at a change in career, looking to go overseas, reinventing themselves, or looking for more opportunities or looking for more growth, whether it's red tape or taxes is stifling that. And people are looking for alternatives. And unfortunately for Australia, and fortunately for everywhere else, there's a lot of countries out there welcoming them with open arms and more favourable terms and conditions in terms of being able to help people do well. And I think COVID exploded this idea out because the whole online work from home sort of scenario means that people can be location agnostic. They can sell violins in Europe from the Middle East or something. I'm just thinking really weird sort of scenarios. And these days, it's not so much a consideration of do you have to be boots on the ground in a certain area. And people are now looking for these hubs. That's obviously one of the reasons why Middle East is very popular, because we sit between Asia and Europe, and we can talk to both regions at the same time in a very similar time zone. US is massive, certainly from the tech side. Obviously, now we have the Chinese entry into AI, so that can only be good for the whole AI sector, because what it's going to do is everyone else will double down on it, and it's going to go pretty crazy. So
we saw that, didn't we? It's going to make AI, and I guess using AI, software as a service, as an example, a lot more competitive. More competition means it should come down in terms of the price of it for the retail market, and that's why everyone was shitting bricks when DeepSeek came out, and Nvidia's going, so
you mean don't need our GPUs?
yeah, that's right. The panic set in. I think we saw they lost 500 billion or something in market cap in hours, but then it's sort of bounced back since then. But it's pretty alarming. I think there's some funny memes going around online on LinkedIn that they lost the market capitalization of McDonald's and I think it was Coca-Cola. So there you go.
It's huge. But I think also people are waking up to it as well too. Reading the story, was it a single guy with $6 million building on a laptop? I think everyone knows that that's not the case. You can't build something like that with those limited resources and stuff. And there's always that sort of the agenda behind the agenda. So whether it was funded by the Chinese government, whether we're looking at them trying to do this stuff, there's all. So I think now that the pain points are there, other providers are going to double down on providing not only good service but peace of mind as well too. I'm not going to lodge, install DeepSeek on my computer because I don't know what the controls are in place. So we only work with companies that have those controls, whereas others may not. So it's a new world. It's the AI world is going to revolutionize the way we work and live. And even just reading an article today, weather forecasting. AI now is better at weather forecasting than a lot of the old, antiquated models. So it's going to be a fascinating thing to watch, and grab your popcorn.
Yeah, I'm going to be putting a lot of weathermen out of a job.
Yeah, exactly. But interest rates, mate. What are your thoughts on interest rates? I mean, by the time this podcast goes out, I'd see maybe the RBA hasn't announced yet. Might have announced next Tuesday.
So when we saw the inflation data yesterday, we saw that the inflation is within range, but I think the trim mean was still a little bit higher than probably what they want. But gosh, when you check the ASX tracker, where it's sort of taking a temperature on the market and what the market thinks, I think last time I checked it was about 85% that the market thinks that there's going to be a rate decrease of 0.25%. I believe it's too early. I don't think they should cut yet. I think we need to see a really strong theme. Right now, obviously, the trend is our friend and it's heading in the right direction, which is great. But the worst mistake they can make is cutting too early, because trying to increase rates again to get a handle on inflation will be far more detrimental on the Australian economy than getting it wrong. So with that in mind, they shouldn't cut, my opinion. I reckon you probably agree. I think if they were to cut, wait until there's a bit more consistent data, maybe another quarter or even 2 quarters, and then they can start to take off the brakes a bit. So they should wait until probably middle of the year.
Mate, I'm still calling May myself, because we don't want to see, or the RBA doesn't want to be seen to be influencing elections. We have that election thing, boogeyman hanging over us now over the next couple of months. To me, if the employment numbers weren't so strong, then I'd say, 80-20, 80% chance that the rate cut would happen. I think that is in the back of Michelle's mind. She's like, everyone's fully employed. This is tap the brakes will just suddenly flood the market with capital. Inflation's going to kick up again. So I'm calling for rates on hold. If they do cut rates, though, expats get ready because the dollar is going to get hit. The Australian dollar, that is, and sitting at 62.5 right now. 61s and 60s is a good possibility, because we saw Jerome Powell, your best mate JP, he held rates last night in the US. Right. So if the RBA does decide the cuts and the US is holding, then that interest rate differential between the two markets, will cause the US dollar to strengthen against the Aussie.
Remarkable that we're seeing low 60s, and a lot of it is the Trump effect, I would say, but also the fact that we aren't exporting much over to China, and there's no real need for a lot of our export partners to own and hold the Australian dollar, so there's not as much demand there anymore. But who knew that we would see 58 or 59 cents again so quickly off the back of COVID-19 and the early days of 2020?
You're spot on, mate.
Remarkable.
You're spot on. And I think it goes to show the importance of repatriating capital when you can to Aussie dollars. No one can guess where the dollar's going to be in the next month, the next 6 months, let alone the next 2 years. So you might look back and think, God, why didn't I just sell the kids and transfer that money back to Oz when it was 62, when the currency's back at 78 or something? So you just need to be disciplined with that repatriating capital. Move it back to Oz. Make sure there's an offset on the other side. Make sure it's either going to a mortgage, super investment account, something. It has to have a purpose. Yeah, spot on, mate.
Absolutely. Give it an objective. And I agree. I mean, you shouldn't be waiting to see if it's going to drop further. If you've got an amount, stick to the dollar cost averaging. It's the best approach you can take, because often your biggest risk for your period overseas is that currency risk. You don't want to be holding all your assets in a foreign currency, get back and go, shit, 78, 79, 80 cents, going, oh God, there you go. I've just lost 15, 20% of my wealth very quickly. It's evaporated.
Exactly.
So that's another key theme you said. We've got the election back in Australia. So Liberal or Labor, what's going to happen? I don't know if Albanese.
What are your thoughts? You're in the hot seat there. I mean, I read from afar, but to me, it looks messy.
It's messy. Liberals will get up. Yep.
Yeah.
I think everyone's a little bit tired of Albanese and just Labor. I think Liberals seem to be winning. There have to be some big changes and announcements in the next 3 months leading into the us going to the voting polls, which I think will be probably in April, I'd say, just before the budget, which means the budget's probably going to be a soft budget because it's just before the election. And then I think Dutton will be our new PM, and then we'll see what that looks like for the next few years. So that's what's on the cards very soon. Other key themes: inflation. Yep, talked about. It's coming down the right direction. The US, a lot happening over in the US now that Trump's in power. A lot of executive orders there. We've also got their inflation's come right down. That's within range now. It's closer to 2%, which is good. But also GDP growth. I think we've slowed right down our GDP growth. So the Australian economy is slowing right down. We're sort of low, I'd say just over 1.5% on 12 months. So we're slowing right down. We're almost stalling. So I think by the time we sort of start to head into negative territory, we will see the interest rates coming back down. So probably perfect timing, to be honest. That might be later in the year. And then the US is primed for about 2 to 3% GDP growth, and so is the global economy. One to watch will be China, to see what China's doing, what it's doing to stimulate its economy over there. They're still targeting big numbers as well, 4 to 5% GDP growth, which you just shake your head at and go, how? When your local economy is just struggling. But that's how powerful their economy is.
It's the size, it's I know there's a lot of talk with respect to India, what's going on there as well too. So there are these superpowers from a footprint point of view who will become more popular and more I guess, more prevalent in daily conversations. I mean, for the last 5 years, it's been COVID, Ukraine, and Israel. Now, touch wood, Israel's starting to settle down. Things are starting to normalize there. We'll see what Trump can do with Ukraine. To me, it's going to be interesting to see if he can bring them to the table and sort that out. I don't think he can. I think this stuff goes back, sort of 20, 30 years in terms of the issues that they're fighting over. If he can, though, does that become a catalyst for a economic boom global? Suddenly now things are settled down and people aren't worried about it and supply chains aren't blocked and commodity prices and energy starting to flow again. It's going to be interesting. That to me is something that's in the back of my mind, that if that does come to fruition, then that's going to be a good thing for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. You could be seeing a couple of good years back year on year with really strong returns on share markets, entering probably a bit of a super cycle, to be honest. So, I don't know if you can bring them to the table, though. I think you're right there. That's going way back 20 to 30 years. Don't think he can solve that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues there, and I think that's the biggest thing out of all this sort of stuff is, it's like Israel-Palestine. It's always going to be there. But if they can just cool it down and not make it such a macro event, then, watch this space, I'd say.
Absolutely. That's right, guys. So plenty on this year. There's plenty coming to you, especially from us over the next coming months with different seminars, podcasts. We are back up and running with our 3 podcasts. So if you're not sure of them, we do the weekly recap. We do the Expat Mortgages podcast as well. Jeremy's getting some different hosts on there, buyers agencies and lawyers, and getting a good read on the market. And then Expat Chat, where we try and cover everything, to be honest. And don't forget, if you do have questions, feel free to drop them to the question box. And if you're unaware, jump into our Australian Expat Financial Forum Facebook group. That's pretty much getting up to about 4,000 members now. A lot of people helping each other out, putting in questions, other expats joining in there, building the momentum on different threads. So if you're not in there, get in there. If you've got a question, drop it in there. I guarantee you'll have a few other Australians that have either been through what you're going through right now, and they would have solved it, and they can help you out. And we're there to moderate that as well.
Look, we just want to be a conduit to help folks do good things. That's the biggest thing. If we can impart some knowledge or be a part of imparting that knowledge from one person to the next, then we've done our job, and we sleep at night well.
Absolutely. Well, Brett, thanks for your time today, and thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers. Thanks, mate.